My name is Ryan Rampton, and I want to tell you a story about what happened to me in 2001. I died, and I met God, and how that changed my life. And I want you to know that God is real from the experience that I had, and I want to testify of Him today. So, in 2001, I was in my photography studio. I'm a commercial photographer. I had tipped over one of my lights earlier in the day, and I had broken this light. And it had broken the wires out of it and just really shattered it. So I'm trying to fix it, see if there's anything to salvage. And the cord where it plugged into the housing had broken. Well, in fact, I have one right here. So this part was still in the light. I pull it out, I pull the wires off, but I can't get this piece off of the cord. So I'm pulling on it and I'm pulling on it and I can't get it. I remember it's still plugged in. So I go over to where it's plugged in and I unplug it. Well, there's 4 of them plugged in, and I think I get the right one. But guess what? It was the wrong one. So I come back, and I'm pulling on the cord again, and I'm trying to pull, and I can't get it. But, you know, I'm a pretty smart guy. I like to MacGyver things. In fact, sometimes I'd say I'm brilliant. So I had a brilliant moment in what I can do to fix this. Hey, let's use my teeth as pliers. Well, okay, that wasn't so brilliant. Maybe that was one of my less brilliant moments, but anyway, I know why are you cringing? Quit cringing. Okay, cringe. Anyway, the electricity surges through me. It's completely encompassing my body. Every cell feels like it's going to explode. I can't move a muscle. I can't move my hands. I can't pull the cord out. I can't move my eyes to see if anybody sees me. I'm trying desperately to look around the room. I can't move anything. My whole body is completely frozen in the grip of electricity. I'm pulling with all my strength, but nothing is working, including my heart. My heart's frozen too. The only thing that's keeping me alive is the electricity running through me. So my life flashes through before my eyes, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like, this is bad. But you know what? I'm not too worried because I've had so many near-death experiences where I should have died but didn't. The Lord had saved me time after time after time. When I was a firefighter, full-time firefighter, I got caught in a flashover. Nope, didn't die a hero. Almost died in a car wreck. Nope, can't die glamorous. I'm a pilot. I get inverted in the clouds. Almost run into a mountain. Nope, can't die in a fiery crash. I am going to die from stupidity. I'm going to end up a joke on the internet. This is all that goes through my head. Now, oh my goodness, I'm leaving my family and I'm going to die. Life is over. No. I'm worried about being a joke on the internet. So, anyway, there's where my priorities were. So, I'm being shocked, and I wasn't really worried until I could see black smoke billowing out of my mouth. And I knew the body's not supposed to be that from being an EMT on the ambulance. That's kind of a bad thing when it's coming out jet black like a locomotive. And I think, this is it, I'm dead. I am dead. And at that point, I saw this bright light above my head. Well, I couldn't move my body, but I look up into the light. And this light is coming down. It's the most beautiful light I'd ever seen. It was just breathtaking. And I remember it coming down and enveloping me and taking me into the light. And I ended up in this pure white room. And instantly I knew where I was and where I was going. And I was going home to God. I was going home to Father is what came through my head. And I started to jump up and down and just go, oh my goodness, yes, yes, yes. Never been so excited in my life. Little kid at Christmas that can get up at 7 o'clock and at 6:59, anticipation is running through me at this extreme level. I'm so excited to go home. So beautiful. And I'll tell you a little bit more in detail about this later, but the important thing is Christ shows up behind this veil. And I can see him and see the outline of him. And he is so brilliantly lit, like somebody has a searchlight behind him. And the radiance and the light is just blasting through. And it is so beautiful. And it is so amazing. And my heart is just melted. And I'm filled with love. And I feel the Spirit of the Lord so strongly. And I feel like everything's all right. And he comes to me through the veil and he's standing right in front of me. and his radiance and his love just overpowers me. And he flashes my life before my eyes. We review it together, and it happens within a millisecond, and it's done. And he is happy with my life. And this is so interesting to me because I feel like I should have been going to the other place. The guy with the tail and the pitchfork, you know, horns, all that stuff is really hot. That's where I felt like I deserved to go, not to where I was. And not to have Christ respond to me the way he did. Not to have him look at me with nothing but love. Even the bad things that I had done, he looked at every part of my life with nothing but love. And I was just so touched, and I was so complete, so completely overwhelmed with his love. And he says to me, he says, Ryan, do you want to come home and live with me? Or do you want to go back to them? And he did this with his hand. And as he did that, the floor that I was standing on was pure white. And it went to foggy and then to clear. And I found myself standing in the air about 20 feet above my children. And I could see them playing. My little girl's like 6. And her older brother's 12, and the baby's asleep. And my older son's at a friend's. But I can see them playing, and I know they need me, and I know that I can't go home. I know that I can't stay in heaven. And it breaks my heart. As much as I love my children, as much as I want to be with them, it breaks my heart to leave heaven and to not go home with Christ. I don't want to, but I know it's my duty that they need me. And so I decide I'm going to go home. And I turn to Christ and I say, no, I can't come home. They need me. And he said, okay, I will see you again. And he sent me back to my body. And it was not this transition of this beautiful harps playing, birds singing to something nice. It was like getting hit by a dang truck. Bam! I'm back in my body and the electricity hits me again. And I'm being shocked violently again. And the cord's still in my mouth. And I'm just being shocked and I can't move it. I try pulling it out. And I think to myself, I'm like, why would the Lord send me back to my body and not get me off the electricity? And I hear his voice in my head, just as clear as a bell. And he says, oh, did you ask for help? I think I skipped that part. So I said, Heavenly Father, please help. And as soon as I said that, the cord moved. So I'm holding the cord, and all of a sudden it moves, and I can feel it pull. And so I start pulling with all my strength. And I'm pulling and I'm pulling and pulling. And it's like the Lord made me do everything in my power to pull it out. But he made up the impossible part, which was to overcome the electricity. No matter how strong I am, no matter how much strength I have, I can never overcome my own muscles when you're being electrocuted. So he made up the impossible part. And I had to do my part, though, and pull. And I couldn't ever understand why that was until I understood the atonement and understood how the atonement worked. And that's what he wanted to teach me, was how the atonement worked through this physical example. Well, anyway, so the cord pops out of my mouth. Yay, I'm free. And then everything goes black. Whoom. Because at this point, my heart's still not beating. It's still dead in my chest. The electricity was keeping me alive, and it was like somebody unplugged me, and everything goes black. I don't even remember hitting the ground. But I fell down, knocked some stuff over. My son in the other room hears it, comes running in, finds me face down on the ground, rolls me over, and I take a spontaneous breath. And when he's shaking me, he's like, Dad, are you okay? And I went, and he's like, black smoke's coming out of my mouth still. And he's like, oh my gosh. That's the first memory I have of my son, was covering his mouth up and saying, oh my gosh. And he grabs the phone and he calls 911. And he says, my dad was laying on the ground. I don't know what's wrong with him. Black smoke's coming out of his mouth, and he wasn't breathing. And they're like, okay, we'll send an ambulance. So I end up in the hospital, and the doctor comes in, and he looks at my mouth, and he sees what I've done. I've charcoaled a hole through my tongue about the size of a quarter. So if you'd taken a blowtorch and held it on a steak until it's cooked to charcoal, that's what my tongue looked like. The center part of it, about the size of a quarter, was completely blackened. So That's my scar that I have left 12 years later. So the interesting thing was the doctor says to me, he says, I'm not worried about your tongue. The fillings had melted out of the tops of my teeth. The silver fillings melted. It got so hot in there. Ran out of my teeth. The bottom ones pooled. There was silver dripping down my teeth. He says, I'm not worried about your dental work. I'm not worried about your teeth. I'm not worried about your tongue being charcoaled. What I am worried about was the oxygen deprivation that you suffered is because your heart wasn't beating the whole time you were being shocked. But the bigger thing, I'm worried about what 110 does to a person when you're taking it in directly into your mouth like that. It cooks you from the inside out. He says 220 will burn people and blow body parts off, but 110 will cook you from the inside out. So he says, I'm worried about your brain damage. I'm worried about your lungs. I'm worried about your heart. I'm worried about your kidneys. Every organ in your body is going to be damaged. It's not if it's going to be damaged, but to what extent it will be damaged. So he says we're going to run some enzyme tests on your blood and see what kind of enzymes you have in your blood. That will tell us what type of damage. So they tube me to keep my throat open, and they go leave me overnight. The doctor comes back in the morning, sends the nurse in, they take the tube out of my throat, and he comes in and he says, I've discharged you, you're free to go home. And I'm like, what? He says, yes, I ran your enzyme tests on your blood, and there are 0 enzymes in your blood. He says, I didn't believe it, so I had him run it twice, and then I ran it the 3rd time myself. He says, I've run the test 3 times. You have no enzymes in your blood. He says, given the damage in your mouth and the amount of time you were on the electricity, that's an impossibility for you to have no damage. He says, you're a miracle. I'm a man of science and not faith. But he says, you're a miracle. I cannot explain what's happened to you. He says, go home and count your blessings. So I love you and thank you for watching this video.